Hello friends, welcome back. In this video, we will discuss one more reading comprehension passage that is modeled on the lines of the RC passages that are generally asked for CAT and other management entrance examinations like MAT, GMAT, etc. So, as usual, the passage is given as the exercise is given as a PDF. The link to the PDF is available in the video description. So, please click on the link, attempt to the exercise on your own, and then come back and watch the video. Maximize your understanding and to understand or to analyze and find out where have you gone wrong in doing the logical or the critical analysis in arriving at the answers. For the correct answers, yes, even for the correct answers, you need to understand the process of finding out the correct answers. You may have arrived at the correct answers by accident or uh, by your kind of reasoning, but if you explain to the reasoning that is put forward by me, you will have a better understanding of the approaches that you can adopt in analyzing the various options that are available in the RC passages questions. And most of these options will be confusing. So, how to analyze the options and arrive at the correct answer with a certain degree of uh, uh, surety. That is the skill you need to develop, for which you need to listen to the explanations carefully. So that is why you attempt the exercise first and then come back and listen to the explanations, which will definitely improve your edge and give you the required skill in finding out the answers without too much of a problem in all the critical reasoning and RC passage. So straight away going to the passage. So this passage is basically talking about a book written by a lady called Viviana Zelizer, sorry. And this book is about finding out or the change that happened over a century on how the society viewed the value of children, or how children were viewed as economic commodities in the initial period of the or till the initial period of the 19th century, that is till 1800s or 1850. Over the course of this 19th century, or during the period from 1800 to 1900, there was a drastic change in the method in which the value of children were assessed by the society. So that is the subject of the book written by Viviana Elisa. The passage is talking about that, and I have given an extract of the passage that will give you a clear understanding of the main points given in the book. So, the extract is, so first, the passage is talking about two incidents that happened, or one incident in which a couple in Georgia, in USA, they filed a suit. Suit means a court case for compensation for the accidental death of their 2-year-old child, and the court denied their compensation. The reason given was that this girl was not doing any real economic contribution to the family. So the family was not given any compensation on the grounds that this girl was, or the 2-year-old child was not at all contributing economically. So her life is not having any real value. And that was the decision or the verdict given by the court. But just in 100 years, in 1979. So the earlier incident happened in 1896, and in 1979, another set of parents of another girl sued in New York for accidental death damages, and they got an award of $750,000. So two similar cases, two children who were not very young, who were not economically contributing to their family in any way. So they died, and in the first case, the court did not award any compensation, saying that the girl was not contributing or the child was not contributing anything to the uh, economic welfare of the family. So her life has got no value. Whereas in the 1979 verdict, even though the girl was not contributing economically to the family, her life was having some value, and the value was fixed at $750,000. So uh, this is the case, or this is the incident that is cited. Then the author comes to the book, and this, on the basis of this incident, is the author is talking about this book written by Viviana Selitzer, where she is trying to analyze how this change in the approach regarding the assessment of the value of a child's life has come about during the 19th century. And she says that children who were considered economically valuable only if they were part of the labor force and thus contributed to the income. So before the 19th century or till the beginning of the 19th century, the value of a child was based on how much that child was contributing to the economic income of a family, or whether he or she is working, and if they are working, how much they are contributing, and on the basis of that, the child was given an economic value. So that is why they were treated as useful. But what happened in the 19th century? We know that industrialization happened. What is industrialization? Many of the industries were mechanized. Many of the things that were done manually, the machines started taking over. So the relevance of people and children in the labor force reduced, as a result of which children did may not be may not might not have got too much job opportunities after industrialization. Then reduction in child mortality. Another reason is the number of children who used to die after their births or within the first 5 years of their life, that started coming down, or the children started surviving more. As a result of which, what happened? The family started having less number of children. Previously, the families used to have more children because a lot of children used to die in the early stages of their life. So, in order to compensate for their deaths, the parents used to have more children. But in the 19th century, the child mortality reduced, so the number of children in each family became less. So when the number of children became less, what happened? There was more emotional connection between the family members, or parents started loving their children more because the number of children were less. So the development of close-knit families. So family became very emotionally close to each other. And then there were certain laws on compulsory education. So in social reforms happened. So compulsory education to children became a law, and the child labor was banned. So all these resulted in what happened? Children not participating in the economy. So from the beginning of the 19th century till the end of the 19th century, children started becoming less and less active in the economy. They did not work; they were only living and studying. So as a result of which, their families were not getting any economic contribution from the children. On the other hand, families had to spend a lot of money for the children, for their education, and for all those things. So they were an economic burden, not an economic benefit. Still, their value increased. That is what the case shows, right? So in the 1979 case, so that child, even though she was not contributing economically to the family, the court gave a compensation of $750,000. So that means even though they were not economically active, their value increased. That value is due to the emotional value of the child, because the child was being loved by the parents. So because of that, there was a lot of social bonding and connection with the child. This social and emotional bonding is actually an intangible value. So it is having a value which is not tangible. Tangible means something that cannot be fixed. So here you have an intangible emotional value. This intangible emotional value is also converting to economic value. That is what happened. This transformation happened. So that is why their emotional value was priceless. What is priceless? Invaluable, or you cannot fix a value on it. So it is very, very highly valuable. That is priceless. Priceless, don't misunderstand as without any price or without any value. It means its price cannot be estimated. It is cannot be valued. So it is hugely valuable. So that is why the emotional value of children increased during the 19th century. As a result of which, their economic value also increased. This is the uh, theory put forward by Williana Eliezer, and she says that apart from these all these economic and emotional factors that increase the value of children in the society, she talks about one more aspect, which is the sacralization of children. What is sacralization? People started to treat children as sacred, and they wanted to protect children from the market forces. So, or what is a market force? Anything that ascribes a value to anything or any individual or entity based on its economic viability or economic value. So previously, children were also considered valuable only on the basis of their economic value. So that is what is a market force is all about. Whereas the society wanted to change that, and they wanted to protect children from these market forces and treat children as sacred, something holy. They did not want the children to be corrupted by the market forces. So this social desire to protect children and sacrifice them or treat them as something sacred, which is not to be corrupted by the market forces, that was the another cultural determinant. Determinant means cultural factor that led to the increased value of children during the 19th century. So this also happened in the 19th century, and this was a factor that contributed to the change in society's approach to the value of children. So this is Zelisa's another theory regarding the factors that contributed to the value of children during the course of 19th century. Yes, there were some economic factors, there were some emotional factors, and there was a cultural factor as well. And the last thing she says that is that she is not in agreement with the sociological economist. Sociological economist is a person who finds economic reasons for any social or cultural changes. So anybody who says that whatever happens in the society, it has an economic reason. So that is a sociological economist. And sociological economists, they might have or they are thinking that the value of children, even though they are not economically contributing to the family, increased during the 19th century because of certain economic reason. What is that economic reason? They say that it is by the principle of maximizing economic gain. So it says that there might be some parents who would be loving their children, who would be emotionally attached, but that is an individual preference. But by and large, all human behavior is directed by the principle of maximizing economic gain. So these sociological economics are saying that the increased value of children in the 19th century is because of the parents wanted to maximize economic gain from the children at a future date. So that is why they started valuing children more. But the Selizer says that this is wrong. This is not correct at all. It is only because of the emotional attachment. She says that the power of social values to transform price. So when you have a social or a culture, when you ascribe or put a very high social or cultural value to something, automatically it becomes economically valuable. That is what she says. So in this case, children are considered to be socially and culturally valuable. In the 19th century, children started to be treated as social and culturally valuable entities from the 19th century onwards, as a result of which they also had a lot of economic potential. So that is why they transforms price. So social values transform price. So she is objecting to the sociological economists who say that the increased value of children during the and after the 19th century was due to some economic reasons. In order to maximize the economic gain of children's future what a potential, but she says that it is because of the social and cultural values attached to children, which is intangible. It cannot be measured. So as a result of which, their economic value also becomes higher. So this is the statement. So these are the essential topics that are discussed. So in an extract, we can say like this. So if you want, you can pause the video and read the extract carefully. Then you will understand the essence of the passage without a problem. Once you understand it, you can easily answer all the questions without a problem. So this is the power of comprehension. Once you understand a passage very clearly without any ambiguities or confusions, you can very easily go through the questions without too much of an issue. So here the passage is around 447 words length, or you can say 500 words. I have given you 15 minutes in the exercise to attempt this passage. 7 questions are there. So 2 minutes per question roughly it comes to. But I would suggest that you take around 5 minutes to read and understand the passage clearly. Then in the remaining 10 minutes, you can easily answer the question. So this should be your approach. Without full understanding or comprehension, if you approach these kind of passages, maybe you will be tempted to look at the wrong answers, and ultimately your marks will be low. So this is why comprehension is the most important thing in reading comprehension passages. Once you understand, your answers will become very easy. Number one, it can be inferred from the passage that accidental death damage awards in America during the 19th century tended to be based principally on this. So in the 19th century, that means in 1800. So we are talking about the accidental damage award in 1800 in the first paragraph. What was the accidental damage award based on? It was based on economic contribution. Says that this girl was not given any, or the family of this girl was not given any compensation, citing the reason that she was not economically contributing to the society. So, economic contribution was the basis of damages during the 19th century. So, what is the answer? Earnings of the person at the time of death. So this is clearly the answer, economic contribution. Wealth of the party causing the death, wrong. We are not at all bothered who has caused the death. Degree of culpability of the party causing the death. Degree of culpability means how guilty that party is who caused the death. The passage is not talking about the party that has caused the death. Option D, the amount of money that had been spent on the person killed. Again, not at all stated in the passage. Option E, amount of suffering endured by the back. Again, not at all stated. So, very easy question. Option A is the answer. Question number two, it can be inferred from the passage that in the early 1800s, children were generally regarded by their families as individuals. So, in the early 1800s, before this transformation took place, the transformation took place from 1800s to 19 means 1899 or 19 to the 20th century. So from 19th century to 20th century, the transformation happened. So before that, uh, how the parents regarded their children as people who are contributing economically to the family. That is what the passage says. So, what will be the answer? Option A needed enormous amounts of security, not at all stated in the passage. Required constant supervision while working, again, not stated in the passage. Were important to the economic well-being of a family, true, because the passage says that in the begin or in before the 19th century, or in the early 1800s, at the beginning of the 19th century, children were considered by the families as important contributors to the economic well-being of a family. So option C is correct. Option D, unsuited to spending long hours. We are not at all talking about schools in the 1800s. Option E, were financial burdens assumed for the good of society. Again, not correct. So very clearly, option C will be the answer. Question number three, which of the following alternate explanations of the change in the cash value of children be most likely to be put forward by sociological economists as they are described in the passage. So, how sociological economists are described in the passage? These are people find some economic reasons for any social or cultural change. That is what a sociological economist is. And as per the passage, sociological economists are saying that the children's value increased during the 19th century, even though they were not contributing economically, because of their potential to maximize economic gain. Potential is the keyword, means once they become adults, they will have jobs and they will be contributing to the economic welfare of the family. And that is why they were considered valuable. This is the theory by social economists. Whereas our researcher Vivian Zelizer says that this is not the reason. The reason is that the families are very much emotionally close to their children, and because of their emotional proximity to the children and the society and the culture, all of them treat children as very precious. And this value or the social and cultural value given to the children is automatically converted to the intangible economic value. So that is the reason given by the reason. So as per sociological economists, it is because of the earning potential of the children that they are considered valuable. So which is the answer? Cash value of children rose during the 19th century because parents begin to exercise their emotional investment in the upbringing of their children. So this is not the view of sociological economists. This might be the view of VN Zelizer. Option B, the cash value of children rose during the 19th century because their expected earnings over the course of a lifetime increased greatly. Because they would be earning more in their future life because of their education and other things. So this is why the value of the children rose during the 19th century. This is what a sociological economists have stated. So option B is a good answer. Option C, the cash value children rose during the 19th century because the spread of humanitarian ideas resulted in a wholesale reappraisal. Humanitarian aid. We are not at all bothered with humanitarian ideals. Passage is not talking anything about humanitarian ideals. So this is Wrong. Option D, that cash value children rose during the 19th century because compulsory education have reduced the supply and thus raised the cost of available child labor. Means because of education, the number of children who were working were less, as a result of which more demand, less supply, so the increased value for children. But we know that as per the passage, the child labor was banned during the course of the 19th century. So available, even if this is true, available child labor means child labor cannot be employed. So it is not going to be a reason for the cause of increased value as per sociological economy. So wrong. Option E, the cash value of children rose during the 19th century because of changes in the way negligence law assessed damages. This is completely irrelevant. We are not talking about negligent law in accidental death cases and how its value or the value of children increases. So it's an irrelevant statement. So very clearly, option B is the answer. Their expected earnings, that is what the passage is as per the sociological economics. Number for the primary purpose of the passage. What is the primary purpose of the passage? So, very simple question. What the passage is basically describing the theory put forward by Vivian Zelizer in her book. So, option A, review the literature in a new academic subfield. Whether it is a new academic subfield or not, we are not aware. So, this is wrong. Present the central thesis of a recent book, correct? Because it might be a recent book, we don't know, but it is anyway the central thesis or the the important theory in this book. That is what the passage is discussing. So probable answer, keep it in your mind. Option C, contrast two approaches to analyzing historical change. Are there any two approaches to analyzing historical change? The passage is mainly dedicated to Zelizer's analysis of how the change happened. And finally, the last paragraph, it talks that sociological and economists are talking about another view of how the change happened, but that is not correct as per the passage. So, contrasting two approaches to analyze historical change is not the primary purpose. See, the question is to talk about the primary purpose. Primary means the most important purpose. It is only a supplementary purpose. It is contrasting two approaches to analyzing historical changes because the second approach is only talked about as a supplementary idea in the last paragraph. So the main purpose of the passage is not to talk about the second approach or to compare and contrast between the two approaches. If it had been the primary purpose, the entire passage would have been talking about the two approaches and how they are similar, how they are different, etc. So this is not a primary purpose. You can say that this is a complementary or a supplementary purpose. Sorry. So this is not the primary purpose. You can ignore it. Then refute a traditional explanation to a social phenomenon. So is there a traditional explanation and a modern explanation given? What is a traditional explanation? Explanation that has been going on since the phenomenon happened. And modern explanation means a new explanation. No, we don't have any traditional explanation and a modern explanation to disprove. Refute means disprove. So there is no modern explanation to disprove a traditional explanation as per the passage. So wrong again. Option E, encourage further work on a neglected historical topic. The passage is not at all stating anything about further research to be done on this topic, and whether the topic is neglected, that also we don't know. So because of this encouraging further work and neglected topic, this is not wrong, it is not correct. So the very clear answer is D. Number 5. Can we infer from the passage that which of the following statements was true of American families over the course of the 19th century? What happened to American families during the course of the 19th century? They became emotionally close to each other. So previously, a lot of children were there in the family because more children meant more economic income or economic liberty to the family. So there were more children, and all the children or most of the children will work, so they will contribute to the economy. So that was the value of the children. But during the course of the 19th century, the number of children the children lost their job because of industrialization and other things, and they started going to school. So the economic income that families enjoyed were not there. Still, their value increased because there was a lot of emotional bonding between the family members because of the reduced number of family members, and there was a lot of emotional bonding. So emotional value of the children rose as a result of it. Their social and cultural values increased. This is the meaning. So average size of families grew considerably wrong. The average size of families must have gone down because of the reduction in mortality and all those things. Percentage of families involved in industrial work declined dramatically. We don't know whether the percentage of families involved in industrial work declined or increased. That is not stated in the passage. So wrong again. Family members became more emotionally bonded to one another. Correct, true answer. So keep it in your mind. Family members spend an increasing amount of time working with each other. Are they working? We don't know. So the children are not working. So you cannot say that family members spend an increasing amount of time working with each other. The family members spend an increasing amount of time with each other is good, but working with each other is wrong. So that is why this is wrong. Family members became more economically dependent on each other. Are they economically dependent on each other? This happened before the start of the 19th century. But the question is about what happened over the course of the 19th century. Over the course of the 19th century, they did not become economically dependent on each other. You cannot say that. So this is the correct answer. Family members became more emotionally bonded to one another. Option C. Number six, Zeliza refers to all of the following important influences in changing the assessment of children's worth, except. So, what were the factors that contributed to the change in the evaluation of children's worth? And you need to find something that was not a factor. Mortality rate, yes, that was a factor. Since that is a factor, you don't consider it because our question is an exception question. Nature of the industry, again, it is a factor. Previously, industry was not mechanized. So after industrialization, industries became mechanized. So once it became mechanized, the children might have lost their jobs, or there were no role for children in the industry. So this also was a factor. Nature of the family, again, the families became very close knit. So the nature of the family also was a factor in assessing the value of children. So not your answer. Attitude towards reform movements. How was the society's attitude towards reform movement? Is it stated in the passage? The only thing that is stated in the passage regarding reform movement is that reformers introduced child labor regulations and compulsory education laws. So, based on the theory that children's emotional value is making child labor taboo. So, child labor is something that is taboo or that is not to be done. So, based on this assumption, they introduced child labor regulations and compulsory education. What was the society's or the family's attitude towards these reforms? We don't know. So, is this a factor? We don't know because attitudes towards reform movements, we don't know. We only know that reformers introduced so many things. And what is the difference between reforms and reform movements? Reform movement is a mass movement or a mass agitation demanding a particular reform is called a reform movement. Here we are talking about social reformers introducing certain laws. We are not talking about reform movements. Reform movements means an agitation or a strike or some kind of uh, a movement against the establishment for introduction of certain reforms is called a reform movement. That is not at all stated in the passage, and the attitude also is not stated. So this could be a good answer. Keep it in your mind. Attitude towards the marketplace. This is very clearly given. The attitude towards the marketplace changed during the 19th century. This sacralization was a way of resisting what they perceived as a relentless corruption of human values by the marketplace. So, uh, protecting children from the class business world became enormously important for the late 19th century class Americans. So, the attitude of the mid class Americans in the late 19th century towards the market changed, and they wanted to protect children from the corruption that is taking place in the marketplace. So, the attitude is an important factor. So, this is being an important factor that cause the change. This is not our answer. So option D is the correct answer. This might be the only question where there is a confusion. All other questions are very simple. You can easily answer it. This question needs a bit of a careful analysis. If you are able to do that, you will get this answer right without a problem. Question number 7, which of the following would be most consistent with the practices of sociological economics as these practices are described in the passage? So you are given some hypothetical situations or statements. Which of these statements are consistent with the theory followed by sociological economics? So what sociological economics it says, any social change or any practice or anything that happens, it has an economic reason. That is the principle of sociological economics. So once you have that, just go through the statements and find the statement that is agreeing with that theory, arguing that the most healthcare professions enter the field because they believe it to be most socially useful of any occupation. If the healthcare professionals enter a field because they are socially useful, then it is not agreeing with sociological economics. So sociological economics say that healthcare professionals will enter the field because they want to make more money. But here they are entering the field because it is sociologically useful. That is not an economic reason. So this is why this is not consistent with the practices of sociological economics. Option B, arguing that most college students choose majors that they believe will lead to the most highly paid jobs available to them. Correct. Because the action of the college students in choosing subjects is dependent on the potential economic reward they are going to get after they study it, because they feel that they are going to get most highly paid jobs once they study the subject. So it is an economic reason for an action. So this is what sociological economics says. The answer, keep it in your mind. Option C, arguing that most decisions about marriage and divorce are based on rational assessments of the likelihood that each partner will remain committed. So the commitment in a relationship is not an economic reason. So that is not per consistent with the sociological economics. The wrong answer. Option D, analyzing changes in the number of people enrolled in colleges and universities as a function of changes in the economic health of these institutions. Simply put, what is the meaning? People select a university or a college based on the economic status or the financial status of the institute. Is it an economic reason? No, because the economic reason is what economic gain they are going to get. So if you are saying that a person joins a college or university, if he feels that he is going to get a highly paid job after he graduates from that university, then it is an economic reason. Just a person joining a college just because the college is very rich is not an economic reason as per sociological economics. So it's wrong. Option E, analyzing changes in the ages at which people get married is a function of a change in the average number of years that young people are lived away from their parents. Means the more number of years young people live away from their parents depend on the age at which they get married. Means the age at which a person get married is directly related to the time he has spent living away from his parents. This is absolutely not economics is involved there. So this again is wrong. So the only correct answer is option B, is consistent with sociological. So this is thus we come to the end of these 7 questions. So most of the questions were very simple. If you have spent some considerable time, so let's say you have spent around 8 minutes in understanding the passage. So I have given you 15 minutes. So out of which 8 minutes you have spent in understanding the passage. Even then, within 7 minutes, you should be able to complete the 7 questions without a problem, because most of the questions are very simple and straightforward. You need not have to go back to the passage and read again and again. So the initial understanding, if you take 7 minutes, 7 minutes is too much of a time, or 8 minutes. Let's say you are 503rd passage, you are reading maybe 2 times or 3 times in 8 minutes, and then coming back and attempting the question. Even then, you will get 100% result if you follow the process correctly with the diligence, with care, so that understanding is the most important thing. Once you understand, you are able to arrive at the answers by applying your logical skill. So I hope the video was useful to you in this. The more exercises we do in future will help you to learn the skill. Once you become a master of the skill, all your RC passages will be easy for you. It will be only for very few passages that you will have to struggle. Otherwise, you are definitely going to get a very high percentile in the RC section. So I hope this is clear now. If you have liked the video, please like, share, and subscribe so that I get motivated to come out with further videos on such subjects. Thank you. Bye bye.